Before the Rings of Power, there were the Silmarils. Before Sauron, there was his master Morgoth. Before Aragorn and Arwen, there was Beren and Luthien. Join us as we explore Tolkien and all the ages of Middle-earth with your hosts from theonering.com, Jonathan Watson and Michael Grumbine.
Hey, happy anniversary, Michael.
Thanks. I forgot the anniversary
No.
as is my
Actually,
one. I didn't get you a gift. Sorry.
Oh, so sad. I even told my wife what to tell you to get me. Passive aggressive way. No, it's kind of our third anniversary of exploring Tolkien. It's been now, we started in 2022. It's now 2025. So we've got 3 years under our belt. Sadly, Dan, our original, as I said before, the original third leg in our three-legged stool is not here anymore, but he's keeping busy. So hopefully we can get him back occasionally sometimes. And
Dan's the Philly or the Killy of our group, destined for doom. Sorry, spoiler alert. I think, although anyone listening to this should know the end of The Hobbit by now.
You would think so. You would think so. But we're not the only thing that's taking a little bit longer to I don't know, get years under our belt. I'm not sure what it is. All right, let me look up real fast what our first date was. Our first date was 5/24/2022. Today we're recording is 5/23, is May 23rd. So
Right.
Yeah, almost exactly to
3
the day
years.
last year.
Starting with the Silmarillion.
We'll have to shift that intro up a little bit. I put out some feelers to say, like, should we change things? Should we make it different again? Should we? I don't know. I like it how it is, but maybe it's a little bit long. I'm sure you guys all hit the skip 30-second button on your podcast recording just to ignore it now. But I still like hearing Austin's voice. Give it to him. Yeah. Thanks to Fra for those. Anyway, so did you hear the news, Michael, that The Hunt for Gollum has now been delayed an entire year? Entire year. So we were originally expecting it in December 2026, but now it is not going to be here until December 2027, December 17th, 2027. So, I mean, everything's being pushed back. The Marvel movie, I think, was also pushed back to 2027. Is that right? The
Marvel movie was pushed back 6 months. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Was that to 2026 or 2027?
I think it's 2026.
Oh, okay.
December 2026, maybe. Yeah.
In any case, everybody's pushing it back. Everybody's not happy with the way things are going. I mean, Disney canceled all their other live action remakes because they realized people don't care. Although, if any of them will do well, it's probably going to be Lilo and Stitch.
True.
The new one that's coming out. But yeah, so what? Like, is it simply that they're too, their eyes are too big for the time that they've got, right? And so they feel like they can do more than they can, but they realized in the end, like, oh, we gotta rejigger this, we gotta like push it back. The problem, of course, is that Viggo Mortensen's just getting older, and so is Ian McKellen. So I'm not sure what they're gonna do with that.
Right, and Andy Serkis and everyone. Turns out, I don't know if Ian McKellen will even be around by that point.
Oh.
Like that's another
right.
2.5 years from now.
Yeah.
So
what are they going to do? I mean, AI it, right? That's really what they're. Maybe I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Although that what that would do is feed into part of their problem. So, in my opinion, part of their problem has been, maybe a lot of their problem has been, and by they I mean all the major studios. You got your Amazons and your Disneys, your Warner Brothers, and Marvel, and everyone else. I mean, Marvel's part of Disney, but they've all been swinging and missing for the last couple of years, all in general. There's been just a lot of duds, a lot of backlash from fans of the different franchises, and this whole corporate model of let's make another movie for this franchise because it has a lot of fans and we'll make a lot of money. Just this corporate calculation that goes on. I think they're starting to realize, it's not working that well. People, our movies, our quality's gone down. I mean, I think about things like Daredevil, which to my mind was the best TV show Marvel ever did. They brought it back, and it didn't even chart on. It was and they even redid it with the original actors, and they undid some of the stuff they were going to do, and some of the more controversial stuff they were going to do to it. Didn't help. Didn't matter. Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio didn't save it, and everything. So, and that's just an example. But you have War of the Rohirrim didn't do well. I just think you have failed games like the Gollum game. I just think that they've been doing a terrible job, and they're all kind of taking stock and realizing, hey, maybe losing hundreds of millions of dollars per production is not a great idea for a future business model.
Yeah, and today, just announced, I think a couple hours ago, as of today, Friday, the 23rd of May, the Wheel of Time series was canceled on Amazon as well. So
wow.
That's not exactly a surprise considering how much they changed both in characters and plot. And it would, of course, like if this is what's so dumb, just get the original fans on your side and you have built-in marketing already. When you drop all the fans, you drop your best marketing, like your best marketing engine. It's just gone. But they change it all because they know better, and then they lose everything. So.
And it turns out they don't know better, and they think they know better, and they don't know better, and it happens over and over and over again, year after year. So I think they're just realizing the Star Wars franchise is the same way. There's been unbelievable backlash from a number of their series.
Right.
Andor apparently is. I haven't watched Andor, but apparently it's like better than
people love it. I'm gonna
lesbian space witches that they tried before, and
I'm gonna try and watch it
Mandalorian
at some point soon. I haven't, but I will. It's sad. I mean, like it's the standard thing. I hope they do a good job with the Hunt for Gollum, but I don't see how it's going to work out for them, even though they're going to move it a whole year out. In fact,
I don't see the draw. Everybody knows the beginning and the end of that story. So what's the draw?
Right, exactly. Other than the usual member berries that they'll just throw in there and say, "Look, it's Gollum. Look, it's Aragorn. Look, it's Ian McKellen. Look, there's Thranduil. Look, there's Legolas." People don't care, right? But Hollywood executives think that's what all people want is a little nod to something that they already knew, and that will be enough to get them into theaters, or to maybe do a little bit more than break even. But they're never willing to take the big swings on new things or new interesting things that are actually really good and really engaging with their audience.
That's right. And if you're going to do old things like you alluded to before, how about just doing the work? How about taking J.R.R. Tolkien's work and just putting it on screen? I understand there's a few changes you'd have to make to fit it on screen. How about just taking Robert Jordan's work? How about just taking these great authors and putting their stuff and not changing the story except where absolutely necessary? But apparently that's beyond their comprehension. So.
We're always willing to help, right? We've been through just listen to the Hobbit episodes and do that. Hey, why don't you try and get the licenses for the Mariner's Wife and just follow what we talked about, right?
Exactly.
Do that.
Because there's plenty of work you can do to make that transition and stay faithful to the books, but make the transition from literary to screen to visual medium. It's not like there isn't work to do, and it's not like there isn't even plenty of room for artistry. Laketown. There's a lot of things that are in the background in the books that Tolkien doesn't explicitly call out what the style of architecture is of Laketown, for example. He doesn't call it. Although there's a lot of things interesting about Laketown, I'm going to talk about. I think George R.R. Martin would like this chapter better than any other chapter of The Hobbit, because we get into a little bit of the tax policy. I mean, not really, but not really tax policy.
It talks about politicians. But
a little bit about the politics of the region, and so. I think that I don't think they understand what they need to do to succeed, or how easy it would be in one sense. And I don't want to throw shade. What Jackson did with The Lord of the Rings wasn't easy. It was a tremendous labor of love, and he did a pretty good job of it. And it was it's not. There's a ton of work to do if you want to do a book series right. But they just always want to rewrite it in their own image. And that's the problem.
Well, let's you and I then make the transition from the screen to the book rather than the book to the screen, as we are going from our screen to the book, The Hobbit. Is that a really bad transition?
We're friendly to transitions.
Right. And hey, since it is our 3rd anniversary, in our extended edition of this podcast, we're going to go ahead and talk about some of our favorite moments, some of our favorite episodes, favorite things we've done over the years of Exploring Tolkien, which was originally called Window on the West, but we realized that nobody knows what that means, really. So we're going to call it Exploring Tolkien. So yeah, join us there. Become a member at theonering.com/member and or theonering.com/Patreon. Both of those will get you the membership here, $4 a month for through the website or $5 a month through Patreon. And thanks to our sponsors, Len and Rich, who for years now have been sponsoring us. We appreciate the extra that you go above and beyond all the other unwashed masses that give us only $4 a month. So thanks, guys. We appreciate
That's right. Hear that, unwashed masses? Start getting washed.
Wait, don't. Yeah. Don't. I was supposed to be funny. You weren't supposed to lean into that like that.
Oh, that's not funny? Sorry.
No, not good. Not
All
good.
right. All right. We love you too.
Yeah. And if you're still listening, hey, give us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you hear this, because more folks will find it. We'll get more engagement, and it makes it more fun for us and for you if we have more folks listening. So, and we're also going to talk about a little bit, I think, maybe I'll bring it up, some comments people made about what the elves might have been trading with the humans of Laketown in those barrels. So
okay,
we'll see what they thought. All right, everybody, let's get into what's most important today, and that is our
Hobbit Facts.
Did you know, Michael? Did you know that the mayor of Laketown is the only politically elected character in all of Lord of the Rings that we meet?
Politically elected. Oh, right.
You know.
Wait. What about the mayor in the Shire in Hobbiton?
Do we meet him really, or do they just mention him?
They mentioned Will Whitfoot at the end of Starring in the Shire. They talk about, and I think they mentioned that he's a mayor and he's elected.
So is Sam. Sam is elected. Hobbits. Sam is elected 7 times as mayor of Hobbiton. But the mayor of Laketown is the only character actually who's a politician that we know that has a character in the
All right.
books.
All right. At least in the Hobbit.
Yeah.
Sam. I think Sam counts as a character though.
Well, he's not the mayor at the time yet. He's the only politician. So okay, I'm really splitting some hairs here, but he's the only politically elected person that we meet as a politically elected person in The Hobbit. I just thought that was interesting, right? We have no other politician in The Hobbit, and he comes across as a politician, which we'll get into in this today's
Tolkien
episode.
does not appear very favorable to him in terms of his moral character.
Right. And it's interesting because, like, you know, we know that at least Hobbiton or the Shire and Laketown have elections. I don't think it's mentioned anywhere else of any other bodies of population that actually have elections.
Yeah, they don't mention anything about Bree. Breetown might have one, you'd think, but apparently not.
Yeah, we don't know anything about. Yeah, but everything else. I mean, clearly Tolkien was he wasn't a political animal. I don't think he would appreciate our political times, and so it's interesting. And I think he portrays him as a politician well. Whereas Sam, on the other hand, was elected 7 times for the good that he did. I'm sure for the Shire. No
term limits on that one.
Anyway, at least Laketown, we get the most political discussion, as you mentioned earlier, that Robert Jordan would have appreciated this chapter, this person more than perhaps any other part of Lord of the Rings, because it actually gets into what a politician thinks and how he's going to govern and where he comes from. So anyway, so let's talk about Chapter 10, A Warm Welcome, the second half of this, as we get into it. Do you want to give us a brief overview again this week?
Sure. Sure. The second half of the chapter, as you all remember, I'm sure, starts with them deciding that the only place for them to go right now is Laketown. Now that they're out of the barrels. So there's really 3 tableaus in this story. One is them entering the guardhouse, which is the guards of which are not doing a very good job. They're just sort of hanging around and surprised by the dwarves. It gives us the reasons for that, and then and so there's a whole dialogue around that, which I'll have some commentary on because I think it's pretty funny because it shows kind of the military mindset. Tolkien was perhaps leaning into his own military experience in the way the captain of the guard tries to take charge of the situation, a little ashamedly because he's been derelict in his duties. That's my take on it anyway. The second tableau is them entering entering the feast hall and talking with the master and all of the people of Laketown who are at feast, apparently. And the last tableau is more of a 2-week fast forward, telling us what happens after the feast hall and before they all leave with 3 boats from Laketown to go to meet Smaug, or at least go to the Lonely Mountain. So there's those are the 3. During that last one, the dwarves are welcomed, and the transition between their entrance into the feast hall, the second tableau, and the third tableau is a song. Because of course it is, because this is Tolkien.
That's right.
So the song is what tips the people over the edge and gets them all to shift from suspicious of strangers to we love the dwarves. And so
mob mentality in Middle Earth.
That's right. Except it's a mob for good.
Yeah.
So anyway, and then along the way in tableau number 2 and tableau number 3, it tells us a lot about the mind of the Master of Laketown, who is a character unlike any other we've met so far in The Hobbit. So that's the by the end of this chapter, they are on their way to the Lonely Mountain with
finally gets interesting here on the east side of Mirkwood.
What do you mean finally gets?
I know, I'm joking.
Who doesn't love tax?
We've been waiting for the dragon in the mountain forever.
I know.
Goodness. At least it felt like that in the movies.
Yeah. Movies. That's the problem. Is that plural?
Right.
Should have been one movie.
Yeah. The interesting about this half of the chapter is that it's the dwarves show again. Bilbo is relegated to pretty much saying nothing in this entire section. He's and Thorin. This is the interesting thing, right? Thorin comes in and man, he just lays it all out on the line and says, it's Thorin, son of Thrain, son of Thror, king under the mountain, he said in a loud voice, and looked it in spite of his torn clothes and draggled hood. The gold gleamed on his neck and waist. His eyes were dark and deep. I have come back. I wish to see the master of your town. There's no like he's been a barrel the whole time, right? He's totally fine just telling them exactly what's going on and exactly what he's going to do.
Oh, yeah.
It's sort of like he has his confidence back completely here now.
He steps into the role of the king immediately. And then he does the same thing, like in tableau number 2. I am Thorin, son of Thrain, son of Thror, king under the mountain. Sorry, I skipped a page. I return, cried Thorin in a loud voice from the door before the captain could say anything. So this is at the door to the feasting hall. So he's practiced this apparently, bellowing out his titles and his lineage. So this comes naturally to him and it works out well. So that first tableau, which is them in the guard room, is pretty funny. Because it says, at the beginning, it says, so leaving the others, Thorin and Fili and Killian the Hobbit went along the shore to the Great Bridge. Now, of course, they've left the others because the others are basically sick or too weak.
They're catatonic.
Yep, they're basically catatonic. Went along the shore to the Great Bridge. There were guards at the head of it, but they were not keeping very careful watch. For it was so long since there had been any real need, except for the occasional squabbles about river tolls. They were friends to the wood elves. Other folk were far away, and some of the younger people in the town openly doubted the existence of any dragon in the mountain and laughed at the graybeards and gammers who said that they had seen him flying in the sky in their younger days. That being so, it is not surprising the guards were drinking and laughing by a fire in their hut and did not hear the noise of the unpacking of the dwarves or the footsteps of the 4 scouts. So they go in, and what I love about this scene is basically, there's excitement, and some of the younger guards run out looking. They're Thorin has made such an impression. They're expecting to see, the dwarven gold rolling down the rivers or from the mountain already. The captain of the guard tries to take stock, and we find out some very interesting things. First of all, he asks the dwarves who they are and who Fili and Killian are. And Thorin says something really interesting. Apparently, there's no word for niece or sister in his language because he says, who are these? This is the captain pointing to Fili and Killian and Bilbo. And he says, the sons of my father's daughter, answered Thorin. Like, you mean your sister?
Yeah, right.
your sister's sons, or I said nieces. I meant nephews. Yeah. Right. So how about just the word nephew? But apparently, Tolkien didn't want us to use
it's
nephew.
Much more royal to say.
Yep. The sons of my father's daughter. So he's connecting him. He's connecting him to Thrain. And so They tell him to lay down their arms. They don't have any weapons except Bilbo, who doesn't mention his weapon, and they demand again to be taken to the master, and the guards again try to basically take control of the situation and not bring them there. So Philly and Killy are impatient and say, "Take us to your master." And the captain says, "He's at feast." Then all the more reason for taking us to him, burst in Philly, who was getting impatient at these solemnities. And he talks about how worn and famished they are. "Follow me then," said the captain, and 6 men about them. He led them over the bridge, through the gates, and into the marketplace of the town. So then it describes the town, which is essentially a calm set of a piece of water with a lot of quays, which are these little landings that boats pull up to. The word looks like quays. I used to think it was quays when I was a kid, pronounced quays. And surrounded by all the halls and houses in a circle around this calm water, of which the largest is this feast hall. So that's when they enter the feast hall and make their announcement about who they are. And immediately they are verbally attacked, not physically, by, and I quote, "the Raft men of the Elves," because apparently Raft elves isn't a thing. Tolkien's like, he keeps using the word men to describe these elves, which plays into your and my joke heavily, where these are the dumbest of the elves.
Yeah.
They're relegated. They're kind of halfway men. They're so dumb. I mean, if you think about it too, I thought of something else, because after the dwarves and Bilbo are well received by the men of Laketown, the Raft elves leave, and it says, okay, let's see. It says, all right. In the meanwhile, the wood elves had gone back up the forest river with their cargoes, and there was great excitement in the king's palace. And I was thinking about that. I was thinking, oh, okay, so you and I had asked how do things get back up? Well, they are raft elves, so presumably they pull their way up the river with rafts, is what they're doing, taking the barrels of, I guess, filled barrels with them, maybe
wine now,
which I guess there'll be wine at Laketown from Doriath. Yeah, exactly. And, whatever they pack in the barrels. But these have to be fairly strong elves, because you've got to go upriver in a raft carrying all the stuff that's now full, the filled barrels. So they're a little bit like the lunks of the wood elves. They're just large and strong and stupid elves.
Who's the character from The Emperor's New Groove? Patrick Warburton's character.
Oh, it is. It's Gronk.
Gronk. They're the Gronks.
That's right. They are the Gronks. The Gronks of the wood elves are raft men. So anyway,
well, it's funny to me that like the raft elves, like they're so concerned about these lost dwarves that they're there feasting with the men in Laketown, right?
Right.
They've lost like their 14 prisoners. 13, I guess, because 14 would be Bilbo, and they can't they can't take the time to even look for them. I don't know who is, or if the raft elves are there. If like so they're just
I was thinking about that.
Maybe
do they even know that okay, they do know, because so word has,
because they say
Oh, wait. So how do they know? These what's traveled there faster than the barrels? The barrels have come downriver, and they without delay, they stop.
Have you seen Legolas run on snow? He can probably run on anything at this point to get there soon enough. Well, I mean, then perhaps there's a more direct path, although Tolkien says that the best path is actually the river. The rest of them are kind of difficult.
So how do they know that the prisoners have escaped? Flaw.
Well,
let's go on to the tax policy.
Let's forget about plot and just move to tax policy, everybody. No. It was. Yeah, it's interesting that the elves are there feasting with the men, and in fact, the men of the guardsmen are actually the first humans we meet in the entire Hobbit. We've met Gandalf.
Oh, you're right.
We've met the elves, but the guardsmen here, they're actually the first humans we actually ever met.
I mean, Bjorn is
kind of a human, but I mean, he's not a normal human, right? He's
right. These are just regular old.
These are regular men, right? Who are happily not really guarding and just enjoying their time for kicking their feet up, getting paid to do nothing, because they're so secure in their in the non-dragonness of the mountain. So so the dwarves come in, right, and so his appearance sparks in them the thoughts of all the old songs and the old things and the new songs, right? So the important thing is that, like, so when we talk about that song that they sing, right, they earlier speak about how the master, he didn't think much of the old songs, but there were some new songs. Let me find this quote. Where is it? There it is. Some of the songs were old ones, but some of them were quite new and spoke confidently of the sudden death of the dragon and of cargoes of rich presents coming down the river to Laketown. So I'm thinking some people were making up some new songs that were a little bit more positive than they should have been with what the dragon would actually do, because they've kind of forgotten the old songs. And even mentions at one point, I don't have it highlighted here, but there were snippets and parts of the old songs that were remembered and not necessarily the entirety of these songs. So the song that they sing, right, the king beneath the mountains, the king of carven stone, the lord of silver fountains shall come into his own. His crown shall be upholden, his harp shall be restrung, his halls shall echo golden to songs of yore resung. The woods shall wave on mountains and grass beneath the sun. His wealth shall flow in fountains, and the rivers golden run. The streams shall run in gladness, the lakes shall shine and burn. All sorrow fail in sadness at the mountain king's return. It is an incredibly positive song.
Exactly. And it is, in fact, what turns the tide. So the Wood Elves have accused the dwarves of being vagabond prisoners and that have escaped. And the dwarves have accused the Wood Elves of falsely imprisoning them when they were just trying to return to their home. And the master, and what I find to be one of the most interesting paragraphs in this chapter, probably the most interesting one, it says, "Then the master hesitated and looked from one to the other. The Elven king was very powerful in those parts, and the master wished for no enmity with him, nor did he think much of the old songs, as you mentioned, giving his mind to trade and tolls, to cargoes and gold, to which habit he owed his position." So it establishes right here, this is the master is a different kind of man. He has come to his position as master of the town because he's a merchant and he manages, he's a free market capitalist, and he manages trade very well and has obviously become rich, and he's the local oligarch. The news had spread from the doors of the hall. It says others were of different mind, however, and quickly the matter was settled without him. So Tolkien here introduces first this idea of this rich oligarch who's gotten to the position of master of the hall of the town because of his acumen, his business acumen, and guardian of the wealth. And then, however, he doesn't actually he's not a monarch.
No.
This whole issue is decided without him, and because the people remember the old songs, which you referenced, and they begin getting very excited. And soon, basically, the mob is clearly in the camp of the dwarves. Mm. And so the Raft elves leave, the master bows to the pressure and pretends to be very gracious, and the dwarves are given rest and respite.
Yeah, it's like the people are it's the modern day, or it's the Middle Earth equivalent of political polls. He's like, he hears the way. He's testing the wind, seeing which way it's blowing, and starts going in that direction. Right? He knows what he has to do in order to stay in power, and that's keep the people happy.
It's true.
Yeah, he said,
the mob appeased.
As for the master, he saw there was nothing else for it but to obey the general clamor, for the moment at any rate, and to pretend to believe that Thorin was what he said, which is so political, right? He is like, and I feel here's a bigger, I don't know, sort of a higher perspective look at the master, right? He writes him as a clear politician, right? He's there because he knows trade and business. He knows, you could say that about our current political leader as well. He knows trade and business. But he doesn't really care which way the wind blows, our current one. But in any case, so he's there doing what he needs to do in order to stay in power. He likes his powerful position, I'm sure. But later, so again, spoiler guys, if you don't want to know what happens later, then tough luck. I'm going to say it anyway. There's the point at which they say he was elected from the old and wise. The masters of Laketown were elected from the old and wise. But it's at this point that the townspeople start cheering King Bard at the end, because he killed the dragon. And I'm wondering if Tolkien is setting this up because he wasn't a fan of politicians. And
No,
so
he was not.
he's setting this up to be a Master of Laketown to show like, okay, we need a king. We don't need a politician leading the people. And so he makes the Master of Laketown just, whichever way the wind blows kind of character. He's there just to serve the people because whatever the people want will keep him in power.
Yep. The essence of an oligarch or in a democracy of types.
Yeah.
Some kind of democracy. So it is clear.
Right, because a king would protect his people, whereas a politician would save his hide, right? And that's what happens with Bard, right? He protects the people, and the Master of Laketown does nothing.
That's right. That's right. And so, yeah, I think it's pretty clear Tolkien's view on. I mean, Tolkien is a fan of kings and monarchs of different types. Even if he sees some of their problems that they bring with them, sometimes he still definitely prefers it. And the Master of Laketown comes off very poorly in comparison, even to someone like Bard from Laketown, let alone Thorin or anyone else. But speaking of monarchs, we have one more monologue from a monarch in this chapter, which is, it is a monologue and a series of thoughts. And this is from the King of the Wood Elves, Thranduil, as we know him now. But I don't think it's ever said his name in this one. But he says, in any case, the king knew now the dwarves' errand, or thought he did. And he said to himself, this is the King of the Wood Elves, very well, we'll see. No treasure will come back through Mirkwood without my having something to say in the matter. But I expect they will all come to a bad end and serve them right. He at any rate did not believe in dwarves fighting and killing dragons like Smaug, and he strongly suspected attempted burglary or something like it, which shows he was a wise elf and wiser than the men of the town, though not quite right, as we shall see in the end. He sent out his spies about the shores of the lakes and as far northward towards the mountains as they would go, and waited. So we have this commentary from the Wood Elves. Tolkien's letting us know they're still players in this game, and they're going to go and they're going to make themselves known a little later on. So we now have essentially 3 different rulers, right? All in this one chapter. We have the master of a democracy of sorts. We have a king without a kingdom, which is Thorin, and we have a king with a kingdom, which is Thranduil. And so it's a very political chapter, and it gives us a lot of hints about one of the things it says. It says that one of the things the master did was he encouraged a bunch of the songs that were about the dwarves, the gold flowing down from the mountain. Let's see if I can find out.
Do you mean where he talks to Thorin? It's at the very end of the chapter where he says, where he encourages Thorin to leave.
Right. Oh no, it wasn't that one. It was right after the transition between the feasting hall and their fortnight. And it says some of the songs were old ones, and you talked about that. It says these, the new ones, the songs were inspired largely by the master, and they did not particularly please the dwarves. But in the meantime, they were well contented, and they quickly grew fat and strong again. So in other words, the master stays busy making up new songs about, or encouraging anyway, new songs about the dwarves' gold. But I remember reading this and thinking to myself, the dwarves are. I mean, truly, Tolkien has a low opinion of dwarves at a certain level because they're really mean-minded sort of creatures. The dwarves are not pleased by the idea of gold flowing down from the mountain towards Laketown. What do you think Dale was like in the kingdoms of old? The wealth of Erebor flowed, and the fruit of the lands around the long lake flowed north, and the wealth of the dwarves flowed south in trade, and there was prosperity and riches. The fact that dwarves are like, no, we don't like the idea of gold coming down out of our mountain. It's a truly sort of mean-spirited kind of look, which shows that like the basics of what made their Lonely Mountain Kingdom, Erebor, great in the past are probably lost on them, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, the Reaganomics of the trickle down economics, right? True trickle down right through the river down to the lake. It's economics of the
trickling
dwarves
down
made everybody rich, the dwarves and the men of Dale and Laketown.
Literally trickling down from the mountain. Yeah, exactly.
But it is like, go ahead.
No. I was just saying, Master is happy to see them go because they're expensive.
Yeah, I know that was exactly what I was just going to say. Right, his whole point isn't like he doesn't like them, he doesn't believe them. It's just that they're too expensive to keep. Just guys, like you're costing us way too much. People want you too much, and so he says at the very end, second to the last chapter, he says to Thorin, or he thinks, "Let them go and bother Smaug and see how he welcomes them." And then he says, "Certainly, O Thorin, Thrain's son, Thror's son, you must claim your own. The hour is at hand, spoken of old." Of the songs that he's been making up. What help we can offer shall be yours, and we trust to your gratitude when your kingdom is regained. So he's been creating the reality in order to get them out of the town, right?
Exactly.
True politician at work.
And hedging his bets, so in case they're successful, he's like,
yeah, he's still in their good graces.
We're here to help you, and we trust in your gratitude. I'm sure you'll be grateful to us.
Right? Yeah, that's right. Look at all these nice fineries we've dressed you in, and here's your boat.
I mean, they give him 3 boats. That's as many.
Right.
That's as many as it takes to invade Middle Earth from Númenor, apparently. So there's that.
No Rings of Power references. Stop it.
Dang it.
Stop it. Oh man. So anyway, after Bilbo really having no part at all in this last of this half chapter, we get the one line: the only person thoroughly unhappy was Bilbo.
Right.
And I feel like, here's what I feel like. He's like, the adventure part is over, right? He's gotten through, and he's really tired. He's like, okay, we got through Mirkwood, we got through Thranduil's halls, and we got through the river and the barrels, and now we're at Laketown. I can finally get to relax. And his bag inside is taking over again. He's getting comfortable. There's been some fineries, there's been some feasting, and when in this comfort, his bag inside, makes him want to stay and relax and enjoy the food and enjoy the ministrations of the people of Laketown.
That's right.
But he sees the mountain, and that still scares him, and so he's thoroughly unhappy.
Because Bilbo is apparently the only one with the end of the journey in mind. Like the fact true. That nobody has any idea of what they're going to do when they get there. Like, they're literally setting off in boats to go to the dragon's home, and they still haven't come up with a plan of what they're going to do to get their wealth back from the dragon. No plan to kill the dragon. No plan to get their wealth back. They brought one creature smaller than a dwarf to steal stuff. So,
yeah, but they do know he has the ring. So maybe that is, they don't. He doesn't mention it, but that's the only plan that. But would be
seriously,
possible.
How do you set out on a journey like this and not plan for how to take care of the dragon? I just don't understand.
Well, in the films, there was this large hall that they could dump gold in and to bury the dragon in. They were going to set the fires ablaze again to melt all the gold that apparently was somehow unmelted, and then cover it with the dragon. And that was the plan. You didn't know that?
They're going to immolate the dragon in molten gold.
Yeah,
right.
That was in Tolkien's other letters. that book.
The Never Letters.
Yeah, so it makes me think like Bilbo is the kind of character that you make him comfortable and he loses his courage in a way, right? He just doesn't want to go on anymore, right? Because he's got these two battling sides, the Tooker side and the Baggins side, and right now
this is clearly a Baggins chapter.
Yeah. Although we don't hear much from him, but we only hear he's unhappy.
Right. I mean, he has a cold. We hear he has a cold.
That's true. Thank you very much.
Right.
But at least he got a good meal. He hadn't had that for a long time. Although we don't hear. I assume he got a meal. I assume they fed him. He doesn't say that explicitly.
So the people of Laketown actually do. I mean, they treat the dwarves very well. They do. They not only care for them and nurse them back to health and feed them and clothe them, but they also give them provisions. They give them 3 boats. They send ponies to meet them at their landing spot. It's pretty impressive for no, they don't even get a promise of a quid pro quo. So I don't know. I don't like. I'm kind of on the men's side on this. Again, our listeners will understand that I have a low opinion of dwarves too, but my opinion of dwarves is backed up by Tolkien. So
yeah, and Thorin is a little bit prideful in this too, because the one line, I think you read it. Thorin looked and walked as if his kingdom was already regained, and Smaug chopped up into little pieces.
That's right.
Whatever the plan was, he was walking around thinking like, Smaug's dead. Like, yeah, we got this. Not a problem.
He's acting
glory
like
that's been lavishing upon me here.
It is interesting that you have Thorin meeting different people throughout. And after they leave the Shire, if you go through the people they meet the elves in Rivendell. Thorin doesn't make a big deal of his lineage. He does let Elrond know, of course, but he doesn't stand there booming out his lineage to the elves. Then after that, they meet the goblins. He doesn't do anything with there. They meet the eagles. They meet Bjorn. They meet the wood elves, and then they meet the men of Laketown. Yeah. And after all those groups, this is the first time that Thorin's actually like basically assuming the role of king and sort of demanding respect and using his lineage. So it is very interesting. I wonder if it's the proximity of the Lonely Mountain or what, but he hasn't. I mean, like the Wood Elves, he was downright, like he hid everything, didn't tell them anything. Bjorn, he doesn't really tell much of anything to. I can't remember if he said he talked with the king of the eagles, but it doesn't really tell us what they talked about very much. So and obviously he didn't want to promote his lineage to the Great Goblin. So I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. It's like a new skin for Thorin to put on, and he's living it up. But which is why it's so surprising to me that apparently he's given like almost literally zero thought to what they're going to do when they get to the Lonely Mountain. I mean, like this is a dragon that destroyed an entire kingdom of dwarves and warriors.
Well, it's kind of, a vengeful quest, a revenge quest. It like the emotions overtake you.
It's kind of thoughtlessness. It's kind of thoughtless. Like
he's like this is our destiny. This is something's going to happen. We believe that this is ours, and we will take it because that's the way that the universe, your God, that would say, I'm going to put the world back in its rightful order, which is them at the at the rulership, at the head of the Lonely Mountain and of Erebor. So anyway, but we'll see what happens because, like I said, finally we're getting to the mountain. Finally, in the next chapter,
right,
which is called On the Doorstep.
And there's going to be a lot of chapters about their frittering about on the mountain.
Yeah. So anyway, guys, we'll get back into that in a couple weeks. Join us though, unless you have anything final to say. I'll give you one last.
Nope. No? We're good.
All right. Well, join us in the extended podcast again, guys. That's going to theonering.com/member or theonering.com/Patreon. And if you just want to listen for a month, we'll give you the first month for free. And just we would have just I think you're muted if you said anything, Michael. But we would have just had our Monday night discussion, our monthly Zoom chat, which I'll be sending out the link to everybody briefly here in an email. But join us at theonering.com/member, become a member, get the extended podcast. And I think I'll tell some folks in the extended podcast what I'm working on to give to the folks in the extended podcast too. So we'll catch you guys all on the other side.
Goodbye, freeloaders.